Hey there, I'm Heather Creekmore. Welcome to Compared to Who, the podcast. I'm so glad that you are watching or listening today. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Amber, and she is one of my interns. And today, she is here to help me launch a brand new, shall I say, section or genre of work here at Compared to Who, where we're going to be specifically talking to younger women. And I am super excited about this because I know my struggle was full throttle when I was in college. I know I get emails and messages through social media from students that are in high school and in college. And honestly, as a 40 something, I feel like I have a perspective on this issue that comes with some decades of experience and wisdom. And sometimes I don't know how to articulate my experience well for those people who are a lot younger than me. And so I am super excited to have Amber here to tell her story. And if you are in that category where you're like, well, I'm not a younger woman, hey, will you please just stay with us for this next 30 minutes or so? Because if you have a daughter, this is going to be important for you. If you have a niece or a granddaughter, or if you work with young women at your church, this can be important for you. And so today, our conversation, we're just going to talk about what body image struggles look like in younger women. And Amber's going to share some of what she's gone through. And I'm just excited for our conversation today. So, Amber, welcome to the Compared to Who show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've never done anything like this before, and I'm excited.
Woohoo! Okay, so Amber goes to my alma mater. It was Messiah College when I graduated. Now it's Messiah University. And I'll just be honest, that sounds weird and fake to me. I don't know. So, like, I can take that up with the administration there. I know it's not on you, but that just sounds weird to me. But it's a Christian college, part of like the Wheatons and the Biolas and the Westmonts. But it's a tremendous school. I had a fantastic experience there. I would send all of my children there if it were in any way closer to Texas. But I loved Messiah. And so when I was looking for interns, I went back to my alma mater to find interns. And Amber, you just happen to have a story that related to all that we do at Compared to Who. So let's just start off before we dig into your story. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Sure. So I am currently a senior at Messiah University, which also just sounds so crazy to say. And I am a public relations major. I mentioned that I'm a senior, so I'll be graduating in May. I'm originally from the greater Philadelphia area, so about like 2 hours from here. And yeah, I love writing, I love singing, I love Jesus. So it's been a great time. College has been a really transformational time for not only my professional life, but especially my faith and my identity development. So
That's awesome. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you're an older person watching or listening today, that doesn't always happen, right? College isn't always a transformational time for spiritual health. So it's so encouraging to hear that, Amber. But I know your struggle with body image and some of those feelings of, am I enough? Do I need to look different to be enough? I know that started even before you got to college.
Yes.
So, would you share with us just a little bit about your journey? How old were you when it started and kind of what that looked like for you?
Sure. So, growing up, I don't think I really thought about my body too much, but I was definitely aware at a pretty young age. My sister and I have my older sister and I have very different body types. And so I think was compared to her just from other adults in our life. While she was struggling through adolescence and, high school, when the time when your body is changing a lot, when she was struggling through that time, I think I often was lumped in there as a part of her struggle because I was very skinny, and I was a very active child, but I also had a really high metabolism, and so I didn't have to worry about what I ate or what I looked like. And I think those comments really started the seed of comparison in my mind, and I started being aware, oh, this body is good and this is desirable and this is something that I should work to keep, or like this is what people want.
Hey,
Um
so what kind of comments were those, Amber? Like what just so we know, like what kind of comments were you hearing?
sure, yeah. So I think I was hearing oh gosh, things like um well, this is probably also hard for her because, her body is different from her younger sister. Like
Mm.
she doesn't have to worry about anything. She's so skinny and beautiful and beautiful in the world's eyes, obviously, right? Like
Culture standard, yeah.
right. Like obviously they were all Christians, so like they were like, oh, but it doesn't matter because beauty isn't skin deep. But yeah, I think I'm trying to think of other comments that I got a lot. I got a lot of like, oh, it'll be so fun, like when she is going to prom, or like things like that. You'll have so much fun picking out dresses because
Mm.
it won't be about body struggle. It won't be
Mm.
like a sad time. It'll be a really enjoyable time because everything will look good on her,
Mm.
and she'll just have a great time.
And so the message received was
This
that.
body, yeah, that I was beautiful, and the skinny body that I had was what I should be keeping,
Mm-hmm.
and not, yeah.
Yeah. And so then what
Like,
happened next?
and so, um, yeah, I think that comparison was always kind of there for me growing up, but it didn't get. I don't think it got too bad until high school. I transferred to a new high school and I didn't know anybody, and everyone had come from like a more private school upbringing, and so they all knew each other for years. And I really, in trying to make friends, I think that is where I started to struggle with my confidence, because making friends was not always the easiest for me. And so I was going to do everything I could to be like the best friend that you would want for
Mm.
people. And I think that is also, I'm very perfectionistic. And so that is where my striving to be the best version of myself that I could be for others came into play. And obviously, comparing yourself to all of the new girls, um, especially at that age, was something that I started experiencing. And there were new boys. So that really, that was the first time that I met this guy when I first started going my freshman year. And I was like, I really want to date this boy. So like, what can I do to date this boy? I want a boyfriend. Like, I'm gonna do all that I can. Which sounds really like I don't know, not not good right now, right? Like, but but I know that now, obviously. Um, but yeah, so uh I was a late bloomer, so my body did not start changing. I did not really hit puberty until like my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
And at that point, I was dating this boy that I really wanted to date. So somehow I made that work out. But um, no, but in all seriousness, yeah. So I started dating this boy, and my body started changing like late sophomore year. We started dating like, oh gosh, it was like February of my sophomore year. And I would say my body started changing, like late months after that and into my junior year. And during this time, I started going to the gym a lot with my sister over the summer. And that was when I got into like the best shape that I had ever been in. I was exercising a lot and like trying to eat a little bit better. But honestly, at that point, I wasn't restricting my food intake yet. Um, and I can't remember what I was going to say.
Let's see.
Um,
Oh, you're talking about being a late bloomer.
yes. Oh, so my body started to change. I went into my junior year and I was like on top of the world. I had my friends, I had my boyfriend, and then everything started crumbling, right? I had taken on way too many extracurriculars. I was on the fast track to college. I had all of these honors and AP classes, and I was just spread way too thin. I now had a job after school, sports, you name it, my schedule was filled. And so was my friends, and so was my boyfriend. And so trying to even find time to balance between my friends who I felt like I wasn't as close with and I really wanted to dig in and have those relationships that those deep relationships that I was looking for, um while also giving time to my boyfriend and everything else that I had on my plate. It was a lot. And um I started having a lot of conflict in my friendships, and in my relationship. And I didn't even have the time to like deal with these things, right? I didn't even have the time for myself to rest or to get the right amount of sleep or to eat. And so that is also where my restrictive eating started. It started with me skipping lunch purely because I just didn't have the time. I was going to so many meetings and different clubs and groups and like trying to, juggle everything that I was like, okay, there's just not time for this today. Like, it's fine, if I miss one meal, whatever, like it's okay. Um, and that that was my mindset for the first, little bit of time. Maybe it was like I think it was a stretch of like 1 week where I was just extremely busy for some reason. Um, but then during this time, I was also running a lot because that was always my stress relief. Um, and so, the more stressed I was, the more dedicated I was to being like, oh, I need to run. Like, I need to get this stress out. I need to just like decompress. Um, and so I was running a lot and not eating the appropriate amount of food. And I started to notice like the body changes that I had with my hips getting wider, or like my thighs. I thought my thighs were too big and my face was too round. I started noticing like my body was toning and I was slimming down. And I started thinking, oh, well, maybe I should be skipping lunch. Like, I'm looking healthier. I'm looking a lot better. Like, maybe I should keep running like as much as I am, and like, just eating less. I'm looking, in my mind, I was looking healthier. Um and uh also, to add on to this point, I forgot to mention that as my body was changing, I did start feeling like I was fat and I needed to lose weight. And it's really sad. Like, if I could show you a picture of what I looked like back then, I did not at all need to lose weight. But I do think I struggled with body dysmorphia. Like, when I looked in the mirror, I saw someone who had fat and needed to lose it, and everyone around me. And I would make comments a lot about how, like, to my mom or like other people, about how I needed to start dieting. I felt like, or I needed to start eating healthier. I needed to lose 10 pounds. And she was always very like, what are you talking about? Like, you are not fat. Like, don't say those things about yourself. But yeah, I really didn't see that. And I vividly remember this conversation I had with one of my friends. We were standing waiting for the school bus, and she made a comment in our circle of like 4 girls that were standing there about how she was the only one that didn't have a thigh gap. And I was just like, I was so upset. I was like, what do you mean? I like turned to her and, like proceeded to show her I did not have a thigh gap. And then was really upset. Like, why would she say that when she can clearly see that my legs are fat? Like, she's just trying to make me feel bad. Like, I genuinely believed that my legs were just like enormous. And in reality, they weren't. And so I think that's something that I've learned over the years that is scary and also sad, that we can have such a distorted view of ourselves. But anyways, yeah, so then back to my junior year, as everything was getting crazy and I was spread too thin and was really stressed, and things were not going well with my boyfriend, and there were a lot of red flags I didn't see because I just had those love blinders on of like he's amazing, and anything that I'm thinking, it's just like me needing to do more. So like he would go and like talk to other girls about me, about our relationship, and like not come to me. And I just thought like, oh, I just need to be, more reassuring and open so that he feels like he can come to me. And it was things like that where I always put it on myself of like, I just need to be doing more. Like, I'm not good enough. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening. And as I was desperately trying to hold on as this relationship was falling apart, I felt like, you know what, I'm just not pretty enough. Like, my body that has changed, like that's the reason he's going to other girls. That's the reason like we're growing distant. Like it's on me. So I am just going to keep exercising. Like now I feel like I'm looking better. So I'll just restrict my food even more. And I don't think necessarily actually that was a thought that I had, but the restriction started bleeding into other parts of my day. So like it started with lunch, and I would still have like an apple with peanut butter in one of my classes as a snack. And I was like, oh, that it's close to lunchtime. Like that's fine. But then it started bleeding into breakfast, where I would make my bowl smaller and smaller for my cereal. And then I started not being able to finish my cereal because I was restricting so much. And I would go to work every day after sports. And so no one kept tabs on me. I packed my own dinner. So like I would pack whatever I wanted, but there was no one there watching me or watching me at school. So it was easy for me to just be like, I'm not really hungry for this. Like, I'm just gonna not eat it or throw it away. And that's what I started doing, actually. At first, I would take my food home with me.
Amber, hold on 1 second.
So what I started doing when my mom started noticing, hey, like you didn't eat your lunch, or like, hey, you brought a lot of your dinner home, I started throwing my food away because I was smart, right? And I thought, she just doesn't understand. Like she doesn't understand. I'm looking healthier. Like this is what my body needs. So I'm just going to do this for a little bit, and it'll get her off of my radar and tail, and everything will be good. But it's a slippery slope, and those thoughts, when you keep letting yourself say, oh, just this is okay, or like just a little bit less, I'm just going to run a little bit more, like that spirals into something more that you don't even realize until you've reached a point where it's so unhealthy.
Right.
And I came to that point then at the end of my junior year of high school. And it was actually a conversation with my mom where she just was like, she just didn't recognize me anymore. And what's crazy is I realized in that moment, I didn't recognize myself anymore. Like when I looked in the mirror, it wasn't just me physically that I didn't recognize the person staring back at me, but I also just, I was so depressed. I was in such a place of deep darkness, and I had let all of these things, pride, vanity, all of these things take over my beautiful insides too, that now I didn't recognize the girl staring back at me. And so I really, in that moment, it was a choice of, am I going to get help? Am I going to make a change, or am I going to continue the path that I'm on right now? And so I decided that I was going to make a change. And so I broke up with my boyfriend. I took a step back from my friends, and I really started focusing on my relationship with God and also my schoolwork, because I needed to make it through that year to the summer until I could take a break, which is what I did. I took a break, and then I, pared down some of my extracurriculars for my next year. Yeah. And so these were things that I really started working on, I think, towards the end of high school. And it has not been smooth sailing. It's not been perfect in college now. I'm still obviously on this journey. And I do find moments where I'm thinking unhealthy thoughts, or thinking about, like, oh, I really need to restrict what I eat tomorrow because I had so much junk food today, or like I need to do a harder workout to burn off all that I just ate. So it's not a perfect straight path, but I can look back now and see that I have come so far. And my relationship with God and a lot of reflection, talking with friends, has all helped me do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing all that, Amber.
Yeah,
So a couple questions for you. So like
absolutely.
when you were kind of getting thin in high school and exercising and eating less and feeling like you looked healthier, were you getting a lot of reinforcement from people saying, "Oh, wow, Amber, you're looking really good." Like, is that something that was happening?
Honestly, I can't remember. I don't think I actually got a lot of compliments on my physical body. Um, I more so got from my mom, like, concern, right?
Yeah.
And I think the more what my friends were saying was like, wow, you're eating so healthy. Like, you're only having a salad and apple for lunch. Like, that's awesome. Like, you're really devoted to eating healthy. Or like, oh, you had that hamburger without a bun for dinner. Like, you had it on lettuce. Like, that you're just being so healthy. Like, I aspire to be that. So I was getting affirmation, I think. I don't think I was actually getting affirmation on what my physical appearance, which is interesting because I don't think that's the case for a lot of people. But I was getting affirmation in how I was eating, which I think played into me restricting even further.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, that word health, right? Like health is good. Health
Right.
is always good. Like, oh, I'm
Right.
just being healthy. And I think
Right.
it's really important if you're watching or listening today to know, okay, first of all, yes,
Right.
like a lot of people do that. A lot of us use that code word health, to hide some of our restrictive behaviors, some of our disordered eating behaviors, all those things. But I think it's important to hear how that looked in Amber's life for a high school girl, right? Because even at your age, you knew health was a good thing, but that actually wasn't health, right? Like there was a lot of unhealthy
Right.
stuff behind that. So like
Right.
skipping the bun is not always health, right? I mean,
Right.
and so like it's just really, I think it's just a good like wake up call for us to stop convoluting those terms,
Right.
right? Because a lot of women have some sort of disordered eating in their
Mm-hmm.
past and are using health as a shield to cover stuff up. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's really important. And then it is interesting because I kind of wondered, like, okay, if you're getting a lot of reinforcement, I know that happens for a lot of women who lose weight, and it sounds like you probably didn't
Right.
have like weight
Right.
to lose, but
Mm-hmm.
women who lose weight, even in high school, lose weight, and then all of a
Right.
sudden all the compliments start coming in,
Right.
and then the restriction continues, right? Because this
Right.
feels really awesome, like everyone's noticing me, I'm getting
Right.
hotter, quote unquote, and
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just like this spiral keeps going, right?
Right.
Because I need more compliments, and everyone's
Right.
gotten used to me at this size,
Right.
so I need to do something more dramatic to get to the next smaller size, so more
Right.
compliments come in.
Right.
And so that's, I think, just another thing to be aware of, when watching your younger girls, or if you are a teen, just your friends, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it it may not be healthy for you to be telling your friend how great she looks because she just dropped 10
Right.
pounds. That actually, your friend may need someone to encourage her, out of some eating disorder, disordered eating behaviors. So
Mm-hmm.
I think those are really good things to be aware of. Now, when you got help, would you mind sharing just a little bit about what that looked like? Because you got legit help.
Sure. Yeah. So, first, I just wanted to say, I think for me, also, not getting the affirmation was part of what uh, kept motivating me to
Mm,
going, especially with my boyfriend at the
mm,
time, because that was sort of what motivated me to start, right?
mm,
I am I pretty enough for him now?
mm,
Like, I must not be, so I need to be, working on myself and losing this weight. And I think as things got worse in that relationship, I just was like, I need to, keep going. Like, I need to
right.
get back to that place of being pretty enough where he will say I'm beautiful,
Affirm you, yeah.
or right, affirm me, or like talk to me and not to other girl, like
Hmm.
invest in his girlfriend.
Right, right.
So yeah, so I think that probably played a part for me, even though I wasn't receiving the affirmation from other people. I think it
Mhm.
was the lack of affirmation from him that really
That makes sense.
kept my restriction and eating, disordered
Yeah,
eating going.
that absolutely makes sense. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, how did you get help? What did you do?
Yeah, so I didn't get help in the sense of going to actually like see anybody. Like, I didn't go and see a nutritionist or anything. um I think really I'm close to my family and I'm close with my parents, and when my mom, she actually asked me, um when I was in this conversation with her, she was like, "Are you doing drugs? Like, I don't know." Yeah, and I was
Hmm.
like, "Mom, what? Like, I would never do that."
Yeah.
Like, for me, that was such a moment of like, I am that unrecognizable to my mother
Mm,
that she is now wondering if I'm doing these things that she should know I would never
mm,
never get into.
huh.
And I was at a point where I knew that I wasn't okay. Um and I came to a point of not being okay with that. Like, I was so physically and emotionally, mentally, spiritually just drained, just wiped out. Like, I had nothing left to give anyone. Um and I realized that I just couldn't keep doing what I was doing, right? And in terms of eating, I think I would have kept restricting and going on that path had it not been for my mom keeping a closer watch eye on me then. And she definitely talked with my older sister, because at the time, she well, she was coming home, getting ready to come home from college, so she would be around. And she was graduating, so she was going to be home with me. So like, she told her, and she definitely told like some of her friends, I think too, because I started to notice them being like, "Oh, like we should like if they were around, they'd be like, oh, let's like eat this together for lunch. And they would like, like want to support me in that way. And it was, and we never had that conversation of like, because I was still in a place of denial of like, no, I have this under control. Like I don't have an eating disorder because I'm still eating, so I'm not anorexic. I'm not throwing it up or taking laxatives, so I'm not bulimic and I'm not binge eating. So like I don't have an eating disorder. Like you guys are overreacting. It's the place that I was coming from, right? And it took me, more years and time to come to accept that I did have an eating disorder, and that it's not just those specific boxes that you have to check in order to have one, which I also think is something that girls don't really know or realize. I think we're taught those 3 ones that I just spoke about, and so we often think, oh, I mean, I don't check those boxes, so like, yeah, I'm fine. Like I don't have unhealthy habits. I don't have unhealthy thoughts. But in terms of help, so you're wondering what changed, right? Like how did I come to not be doing what I was doing? Really, it's gonna sound so cliche, but I really focused on my relationship with God. Like at that point, I felt so distant from Him, and I really was wrestling with my faith of like, God, I know everyone says like you never leave us alone and you're good and faithful, but like I don't even feel you. I don't know where you are. My world has completely fallen apart. I felt like I was losing everything, or like I had lost everything, and I didn't feel Him there. And so I really, I did the things I felt like I needed to do. I broke up with my boyfriend that was not healthy, which back then I didn't know that. I still, as I was going to break up with him, was like, is this what I should do? Like, the affirmation that I needed. And I really just, the break of summertime that I reached was really good for me to spend time with my family and spend time with God. And I really just had to surrender myself every day. Over and over again when I would wake up in the morning and let Him change my heart and transform me in a way that I would have never imagined, because I did mention how looking back now, I could see like I had issues of pride and vanity and things that my identity was in my appearance. It was in how people were treating me. It was in my success in my schoolwork, in my jobs, in my achievements. I was looking for my worth in all the wrong places. And I needed to come to learn that I was doing those things, and that ultimately my identity is in Christ. It's not in any of those other things. It's not in my outward appearance. It's not in my relationships, because people are always gonna, hurt us at times or disappoint us. God's the only one who is constant and faithful and is perfect in that, and in loving us.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that, Amber.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting ready to graduate from college, and I mean, brass tacks, college is a much different experience for you than it was for me. Like, we didn't even have cell phones when I was in college, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Sure.
And so, like, there's the whole selfies thing. There's the whole social media thing.
Media.
Like, what what are you seeing amongst your peers, girls? And you're an RA, right?
Mhm.
So you've got some
I
girls that you're
am.
leading.
Yes.
Um, so what do you see amongst girls, just your age? Like how intense is this struggle? Like, do you feel like it's more intense even, I mean, I guess there was social media when you were in high school too. I
Mhm.
don't know if you were allowed to use it then, or,
Mhm.
probably different parameters as a college student than a high school student, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
but how do you see this affecting women your age?
I think I really have come to realize how much I dislike social media.
Mm-hmm.
It is just a grounds for comparison, and I know that there has been, the movements recently of like being real and authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and not all these pictures you see are um necessarily real, like they're posed, and like everyone's coming out and showing like this was me like 5 minutes and before this
Uh-huh.
picture
Uh-huh.
happened. And so there has been like that aspect happening, but I think that honestly has made it even worse for people because yeah, I have seen so much, even in some of my close friends that I know and have been with at college, the damaging effects of just the endless highlight reel
Mm-hmm.
scroll of
Mm-hmm.
seeing all the girls, and especially at a Christian college, seeing all of these Christian girls that are not only beautiful on the outside but on the inside, and so they feel like, well, she's more pretty on me on the outside, so how am I ever going to find a boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
or some people are thinking husband at this
Mm-hmm.
point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on Christian colleges. The
Yeah.
ring by spring, the ring by
On
spring
your money
is
back.
real. It is real. But that's a conversation for another day. um, yeah, I think that social media has changed the game and has really
Mm,
made it worse, and I think that a lot of girls don't even quite realize how much of a hold or grip it
mm,
does have on them, and how much it does affect their thoughts about themselves in negative ways. I personally have deleted social media,
mhm.
which I've been on and off doing it this year, but then for Lent I was like, I'm deleting this and like keeping it deleted. And I just did Instagram because honestly that is the largest one I think
Mhm,
in girls our age, because it's just pictures. Like
mhm,
there are little captions, but the main reason you're posting on there is pictures.
mhm,
Um and we're pretty much moving away from Facebook. So like I kept
mhm,
my Facebook for like internships and classes and things that we
mhm.
need, but that honestly isn't a problem. Like I'll find Instagram to be more of a problem for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
um and so I deleted it, and it has been the most freeing feeling.
Mm,
I do miss, I mean, there's always the aspects of missing, like keeping up with certain people and like
mm,
seeing what they're up to. Like we have the fact that we have the technology to do that is really
mhm.
cool. But it has been so freeing in terms of just not needing to see what people are posting.
Right,
Like
right.
I don't need to see them in that bathing suit or in
Right.
that crop top outfit, which I don't wear crop tops, but you know what I mean. But like regardless, like so I don't need to see these perfectly posed
Mhm.
and beautiful girls and see all of the things that I'm insecure about
Yeah,
in what I want in someone else.
yeah.
I just don't need to fill my head with those thoughts. I don't need to even engage that. And that has been it's been so good for me.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see this as just like total random? I didn't prepare you for this in any way.
Sure.
But like
I'm ready.
I go to the beach sometimes in the
Mm-hmm.
summer and I see girls like trying to do their own photo shoot and they're taking probably, hundreds
Uh-huh.
of pictures
To
trying to
get
get
the
just the
perfect,
perfect one. Like is that
right.
something you kind of see in life?
Uh-huh. Yes. And actually, I will say that I I did that in high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when I was reaching that point of feeling really like confident and had my boyfriend and I was feeling really good about my body, I started doing that. That was like around the time that I got my Instagram account, and so
Okay.
obviously it was like very exciting and new,
Yeah.
but I would like go places and I would be like, "Oh, I need to get a picture for Instagram." And it like became
Mm.
a running joke in my family where like they would literally be like, "Oh, Amber needs her picture. Like,
Uh-huh.
let's get like," which was obviously that, you know, I don't it wasn't like bad, I guess, but it wasn't good. Like they were
Yeah.
joking about it.
Sure.
But um I would go places and like my first thought would be like, "Oh, where am I going to get like a cute picture? Like I look cute. I dressed like cute today."
Mm-hmm.
And like it's fun to share what, you know, you're doing or where you're at, like the activities you're doing.
Yeah.
And it started out harmless. Like it did start out in that way of like, "Oh, this is just fun. I'm just trying to show my friends like what I'm up to." But um I think vanity is funny like that,
Mm.
and that it seems innocent at first and it creeps up on you. And
Yeah.
I never saw it coming, and um I really do feel like that is what was bred inside of me,
Mm.
right? And I needed to post. Like if I was
Mm.
going somewhere, I needed to post so that people would see and would like it, and I would get that fake affirmation,
Yeah.
right?
A little fix. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what, looking back, like if you could say something encouraging to
Mm.
the 16-year-old you,
Oof.
what would those words be?
Um, hmm. That's a great.
Like, is there part of the message? Okay, so I think there's a couple ways
Mhm.
that parents or educators or youth group leaders, like we try to
Right.
approach it with like the, oh, it's what's on the inside that counts, why are you worried about,
Mhm.
that, or, oh, you have a beauty that shines through, you don't have to worry
Mhm.
about your physical beauty, or, even the like, you look fine, like you look great,
Mhm.
like you're
Mhm.
thinner than everyone else here,
Mhm.
like what are you worrying about? So like
Right.
there's different ways that I think we try to approach it that aren't necessarily super effective. Is there a message that you think may have gotten through to you more than other messages, or is it just a journey you have to be ready to hear truth? What do you think?
Mm. That's a great question. I think, and we talked about this a little bit, but tilting our mirrors,
Mhm.
right? So, one of the things that really helped me in college, um, when I was still, struggling with some of these things, I opened up in just like a random conversation with one of my friends. I opened up about how I really just had this like deep self-hatred. And now it wasn't just like my body, it was other things, but my body was one of them, right? And this friend sat with me and prayed for me, and prayed in such a way as to say like, when she looks in the mirror, God, help her, like no longer will she see her flaws or imperfections, but that she would see what you see
Mm.
and what I see, a
Mm.
beautiful daughter running to her father,
Mm.
the king of glory and majesty, like who created her.
Right.
um and they prayed that I would just see God reflected through my living body, and see his glory revealed. And it sounds crazy, but like it worked for a
Mm.
while. Like all I could see when I looked in the mirror was me as a little girl just
Mm.
running to the Father.
Mm.
And obviously that faded eventually, but like by the time that did, I had learned to see God's glory revealed through myself. And
Yeah.
so this message of like our mirror image being too flat, which is
Mhm.
something that we've talked about. Um, if you tilt your mirror upwards, you're reflecting God, right?
Right.
And you
Right.
can finally see what he's seeing, that we're made in his
Right.
image to reflect him.
Right.
And we're placed on this earth to be his image bearer. And when we focus on tilting our mirror up, all the focus is off of our outward appearance. And
Absolutely.
it's reminding us what truly matters is that our purpose is to glorify him and be reflecting him to others. And it's not about worldly beauty. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I think I think if I could tell something to my 16-year-old self, that's what I would tell her, that your love and your worth doesn't come from others. It doesn't come from what you look like. It comes from the Father. And you're worrying too much about what you look like. You need to be fixing your eyes on him, not on what you see
Right.
in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I'm glad you adapted that mirror tilt exercise.
Yes.
I haven't,
Yes.
if you're watching on YouTube, there's a video called the mirror tilt exercise that you can watch,
Yes.
doing that, for, I think it's a speaking engagement I was at where I did it.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And
That,
when you shared that with me, I realized like it just fit so well with that story. It was like I didn't even realize that was something that this friend was helping me see.
awesome.
But
Yeah. And
yeah.
the other thing I hear in your friend's story, and I
Mm-hmm.
just did an interview with a woman about pornography and women, and how, especially among women like
Mm-hmm.
your age, that's becoming an increasing problem.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of one of the bottom lines that came out of that interview too, was community and just opening
Mm-hmm.
up to someone. And
Mm-hmm.
so it sounds like in your story too, that's a key part, like just not being afraid to tell someone you're struggling with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never told anyone I was struggling with it, partially because I don't think I knew that I was struggling with it. I just thought I was normal. I thought that every girl had the same like conversation about food and exercise and how her body looked in her head all day every day. Like, I just thought, well, that's how we all are. And I didn't realize that it was even possible to
Mm-hmm.
be free from that and to not, like, to have the capacity to think about other things. Like, that was a
Mm-hmm.
newsflash to me. So I love, though, that part of your story is opening up and not being afraid to share that. I mean, that took some courage to
Mm-hmm.
say that out loud, but how much freedom that got you in return. I think that's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Amber has been writing a series just specifically designed for college and high school girls. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are in that demographic, if you know someone in that demographic, it should be live on the blog by the time this episode airs. And so I would highly encourage you to go check out what she's written. A lot of encouragement there, or check it out and pass it on to someone you know that's in that age bracket, because we know that women in this age range are struggling with
Mm-hmm.
these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so our hope is to just encourage them. And then you read my books. You read
I
Compared to
did.
Who, and you
Mm-hmm.
thought it resonated with you, even though like I'm an old lady compared to you. So,
Yes.
compared to who? Compared to you. But so there might be an opportunity for you to check out those resources as well. If you know someone in this age struggling, it might be a book that you want to check out for a girl who's in her
Mm-hmm.
teens or 20s. Even though it's not specifically written for girls in their teens or 20s, there may be something to be gleaned from it. So that's Compared to Who, and that's available on Amazon, or you can find out more about Compared to Who on my site. And then last thing, I this is something that I've been kind of talking to God about. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're a mom with a daughter in this age bracket and you want to do coaching for you and your daughter, or maybe some coaching with you and then some coaching with your daughter, I'm available to do that. So reach out to me, Heather at comparedto.me, and let's talk about that, because I really do have a heart to see women Amber's age get free and not have to struggle through their 20s, or not marry the wrong guy because they were so desperate for affirmation and struggle in different
Right.
ways. And there, there's all different ways that this ED stuff and body image body dysmorphic disorder and all these things, there's all these different ways that they affect our lives and our futures. And so finding freedom is so important. So Amber, thank you. Thanks for
Thank you.
sharing your story. Thanks for your
Yes.
willingness to be bold and courageous and vulnerable and speak into these issues. And I really can't wait to see how God uses everything you've written. I should get some grammar
Yes.
lessons.
So,
And just, to see how God continues to use you. So
yeah. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for this opportunity.
Well, great. And thank you for watching or for listening today. I hope something in today's episode has helped you stop comparing and start living. Bye-bye.